The Last Guest. Mark Ellison had made a name for himself by exploring the most dangerous and haunted locations across America. From abandoned prisons to long-forgotten mansions, his audience loved the thrill he brought them, and his reputation thrived on fearlessness. But his latest venture was different. It was bigger, older, and far more terrifying than any place he had ever set foot in: the Harrington Hotel in Lakeshore, Nevada. The Harrington Hotel had burned down decades ago, claiming 57 lives in a single night. Official reports blamed faulty wiring, but locals told darker stories of a restless presence trapped within its charred walls. Every year, they said, the hotel reopened for a single night on the anniversary of the fire, inviting an unsuspecting guest to pay the price for their curiosity. Mark didn't believe in stories. He believed in cameras, lenses, and the perfect shot. The Harrington was his ultimate challenge. Armed with a single smartphone, a live streaming setup, and nerves he was sure he could control, he arrived just before sunset. The hotel stood alone at the edge of Lake Hallow, blackened beams from the original fire protruding through the reconstructed roof. The lake reflected the pale glow of the building like a mirror, still and silent. He pushed the car door open, inhaling the cold desert air that carried faint hints of smoke and ash. Inside, the lobby was a study in contradiction. Everything looked pristine: marble floors, polished brass fixtures, and chandeliers that shimmered unnaturally in the fading light. Yet the scent of burned wood lingered, and faint black streaks scarred the ceiling like finger marks. A silence unlike any normal hotel greeted him. Not the absence of sound, but a suffocating weight, as if the building itself were holding its breath. Mark noticed the staff immediately. 3 people floated through the lobby, moving silently, their faces unervingly smooth, as if something had erased their features. Eyes empty, yet somehow aware. He stepped forward, offering a polite nod, and received a brass key. Behind the desk, a guest ledger lay open. Mark leaned closer. Only one name was written: his. Mark Ellison. He carried the key to room 203, the room the staff had quietly indicated. The door opened without a creak. The room was staged perfectly for filming, clean and eerily inviting, yet it carried the faint scent of burnt cloth. Shadows lingered in corners, moving with a subtle intelligence, making him pause. Mark set up his camera and began his live stream, speaking directly into the lens with the confidence of someone who had faced fear hundreds of times before. But as the minutes passed, unease settled deep in his chest. The temperature dropped. The air thickened. And then he heard it, knocking at his door. Soft at first. Tentative. Then heavier, deliberate. He froze. His hand hovered over the doorknob, mind racing with rational explanations. A prank? A hotel staff member? But the sound didn't fit reality. It came from the other side of the wall, where there was nothing, only cold, empty air. Mark opened the door. She was standing there. Evelyn. Or at least, what she had once been. Her maid's uniform was burned and tattered, clinging to her body in places where flesh remained, blackened and cracked. Her face had been melted into a grotesque grin, teeth fused into dark, distorted lines. Her eyes, if they could be called that, were empty sockets that seemed to stare directly into his mind. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her presence alone was a command. Mark tried to back away, but the hallway twisted in impossible angles. Doors seemed to stretch into infinity. The ceiling bent. The walls rippled. His live stream captured everything, flickering violently as if the camera itself feared the room. He stumbled, desperate. He ran through the hallways, but each turn brought him face to face with shadows of the past. Burned faces pressed against the walls, hands reaching through plaster, eyes staring from blackened mirrors. The hotel itself seemed alive, consuming his fear, feeding off it. Finally, he remembered an old contact. Father Daniel, a retired exorcist who had traveled across the country confronting haunted sites and malevolent spirits. Trembling, Mark called him, describing every detail in a rush. Within hours, Father Daniel arrived, carrying a leather satchel filled with holy water, salt, and ancient prayers. The two of them entered the hotel together. Father Daniel's calm voice began chanting in Latin, mixed with traditional protective rites adapted to American spirits. The building responded violently. Windows rattled. The floorboards shuddered. Shadows thickened into forms. Evelyn emerged at the head of the procession, leading burned and twisted faces toward them. Father Daniel drew a circle of salt around them, muttering prayers under his breath while the spirits pressed closer. Evelyn screeched, body contorting unnaturally, her grin widening impossibly. The temperature dropped further, freezing their breath in the air. Mark could barely hold the camera, recording the chaos in real time. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Then, with a single shout, Father Daniel extended his hand over Evelyn. The circle glowed. A white light erupted from her body, and with a scream that shook the very foundations, Evelyn's form exploded into ash. The other spirits followed, drawn toward the light, dissipating into nothingness. Silence fell. The hotel itself collapsed in on itself, leaving only the charred foundation behind. Smoke rose into the morning sky, carrying with it the faint scent of extinguished fire. Mark survived, though his body shook uncontrollably and his mind struggled to comprehend what had occurred. Father Daniel, silent as always, left without a word, disappearing into the surrounding desert as though he had never been there. Mark never returned to filming haunted locations. The last thing he posted on his channel was a single sentence. Some spirits do not seek justice. They seek witnesses. The terror had ended, but the memory remained, frozen and unrelenting, a permanent shadow over him.